I'm at the Air Force Station Jaisalmer, bordering Pakistan, and my special guest on this special broadcast is Air Chief Marshal VR Chaudhuri, Chief of the Indian Air Force. And he's given us time to speak about the Air Force's plans and what the Air Force is doing, especially because he's here to witness, and so are we, the firepower demonstration that the Air Force has organized at the Pokhran firing range. That's the occasion, but taking advantage of that, we are here, and therefore an occasion to quiz the Air Force Chief. So thank you for your time, Air Chief.
Thank you, Nitin.
It's, I wanted to start with the firepower demo that you're going to do this evening as we speak. Why? What is it meant for? What is its purpose? And what are the contours of that?
Offensive action is the essence of air power. And air power, with its reach and speed and flexibility, the scalability is such that it can adapt to any situation that may come up in our neighborhood. So this air power demonstration, Vayu Shakti, is one of the means to synchronize the full spectrum of operations of the Air Force, from the RPAs to the helicopters to the fighters to transports and so on. So what we'll display in these 2 hours of time is not only delivery of around 40 to 50 tons of ammunition in a small radius of about 1 kilometer, but synchronization between various formations. It will also display the skills of the individual aircrew as to how proficient they are in delivering ammunition on target and on time.
Right. So, and it will, of course, like you said, involves a variety of ammunition, a variety of long-range precision, or even dumb bombs or something of that kind. So, what does that give the air crew? I mean, so many aircraft will be involved, so many ground crew will be involved. Does it happen regularly, or you do it every 2-3 years?
Like I said, for every pilot to be able to fulfill the roles of air power, he or she needs to be skilled in weapon delivery. Normally, as a routine, what we practice is weapon delivery within a unit or small formations or individual deliveries. This is an occasion where, like I said, we synchronize the weapon deliveries of not only precision munitions but also conventional weapons and surface-to-air and air-to-air weapons also. And for the first time, this time, we are displaying how air power can be used to mobilize the army firepower. So the M777 howitzers will be carried underslung by Chinook.
Right.
It will be delivered at the so-called battlefield, simulated battlefield, and they will also demonstrate the firepower there.
Oh, so that's
it's a synchronization,
coordination, and also integration or jointness being displayed there. Because M777s are meant to be carried underslung like that. And this was, I think, the last time it was held was about 4 years ago, if I remember correctly. What would have changed in these intervening 4 years? Because you will have new pilots because of that, or even the ground crew will have to have new, kind of experience. That's why you do this regularly.
Yes, the Air Force primarily is a skill-based service.
Right.
So whether it's the air crew or the ground crew who is preparing the munitions, or the person who are preparing the aircraft or loading it on, all of them need to keep honing their skills. So though they keep doing it on a regular basis within their own units, but this is an opportunity to now, like I said, synchronize it, time it correctly, see how quickly we can, get maximum weapon load on an aircraft, how quickly we can, turn around aircraft and so on. So it's just an, putting together of all we have learned over 4 years in one event.
And of course, the aircraft come from different air bases. They will come from at different timings. They'll take off. All that will be practiced.
Exactly.
And done like that. Anyway, moving away from this, the demonstration, overall, the Air Force spectrum or the Air Force's doctrines the world over, given the uncertainties that are happening, we've had 2 conflicts raging. What are the changes that you see, and what are the lessons that you are seeing from, say, Russia-Ukraine conflict, or even, going forward, what would be a challenge for Indian Air Force? How are you looking at that?
A lot of lessons from both these conflicts. First of all, the resilience of air power, requirement to preserve assets in case the conflict is a long-drawn one. Primarily stemming from this, now how do you utilize whatever we have in the most effective manner? So the basic principles of being able to concentrate force at the time of our choosing and place of our choosing. So this is something that we continuously keep, learning from the conflicts that are going on.
Right.
The importance of ISR and reducing the sensor to shooter cycle is very important lesson that we carry away from these conflicts. The importance, like I mentioned, we should be able to synchronize the efforts of all the reconnaissance means, whether it is whoever they belong to, not necessarily the Air Force means, everything, including space-based assets,
Right.
to be able to give us a continuous update on what is happening across the borders.
Right.
Only then we will be able to plan and execute missions with the required intensity.
Right. So when you say ISR has also become important, in that aspect, the Indian Air Force's efforts towards improving ISR or updating it, modernizing it, where does that take you, and where are you at on that front really?
So starting from the smaller platforms, the RPAs, you're well aware of what we possess today and what is on the anvil now, the procurement of the MQ-9s also. They're going to definitely enhance the ISR capability. Apart from that, you must have heard that yesterday we've got the acceptance of necessity for additional SIGINT aircraft.
Right.
And additional AEWC Mark 1As. So all these together are going to definitely enhance our capabilities in the long run.
Because that becomes important, like you said. But also, the refueling, mid-air refueling, I think you've just got some acceptance of necessity for that also at the DSE.
So if you recollect, I keep using this the term
Force
that force enablers are as important as the fighting aircraft.
That's
okay, so part of the force enabling is, of course, air-to-air refueling capability.
Right.
Okay, it enhances not only the endurance, the range of fighters, but it changes the entire dimension of how we can shift from one area of operations to another very quickly.
Right.
And today we have more than 600 platforms of the Air Force and the Navy that utilize air-to-air refueling or can utilize air-to-air refueling. So procurement of additional tankers is definitely going to be a shot in the arm for us.
Right. So, like you said, force enablers. Tell us more about other force enablers apart from air-to-air refuelers, ISR we have talked about. What about radars? What about RPAs?
So radars, the spectrum starts from the AWACS or the AEWC. So we have two tranches of AEWCs on the anvil. The AEWC Mark II will be built on the Airbus 321 platforms that we had purchased from Air India. And the AEWC Mark 1A, which are a repeat of what we have got, the Netra, will be based on the same Embraer platform, for which we got the AON just yesterday. So 6 and 6, 12 additional AEWC, so eyes in the sky.
Yes.
Apart from that, whole plethora of radars, starting from mountain radars to low-level transportable radars, all coming from domestic manufacturing, designed and developed in India. So the entire surveillance, spectrum will be majority made in India. So huge amount of Aatmanirbharta, at least in surveillance and recce capabilities.
Because that, like you've been saying this, you've said this before to me and at other platforms also, that if you have force enablers in place and if they can work together in coordination, then your preparedness is far better for combat.
Absolutely. Force enablers are actually, they give a logarithmic multiplication factor to your capabilities today.
Right.
Okay. So that is the way we look at it, and how each one of them is critical to our basic doctrinal issues of being able to project firepower at the time and place of our choosing.
Right. So you talked about Aatmanirbharta and many of them being made in India. Radars have been traditionally being a little bit of a weak spot as far as Indian manufacturing is concerned. Has that improved over the years?
Oh yes, definitely. I think the biggest proof of radar development in the country will be the Uttam radar on the LCA Mark 1A. So an airborne AESA radar is actually, I would say, the pinnacle of available technology, and we have reached it. We have reached that stage. Apart from that, the ground-based radars also, and those which are part of the SAJW systems, the surveillance and tracking radars, I think we have reached, international standards in terms of quantity and quality.
You spoke about firepower, for instance, also ammunition. India has now consciously tried to sort of indigenize or make in India efforts on ammunition front. Where are we as far as Air Force ammunition is concerned or ordnance is concerned?
Yeah, this is one, again, very important lesson from the ongoing conflicts is that we have to be completely self-sufficient in, at least in the arms and ammunitions. Airborne stores require a lot of testing and trials before they can be certified for carriage on any aircraft. So the process is rather lengthy as compared to the same weapons being used on the ground or on a ship.
Right.
So with that as a background, I think we are doing fairly well. A lot of new indigenous weapons coming up on platforms. Most of them are designed and developed in India. And with some of the contracts that we have signed, I think in the next 2 or 3 years, we will have the almost the full spectrum: air-to-air, beyond visual range weapons, air-to-ground, long-range precision weapons, anti-radiation weapons, all of them designed and developed in India.
So coming to the combat fleet itself, that has been one of the areas of concern as far as Air Force. You've spoken about it, that we are retiring more squadrons than we are inducting as far as the Indian Air Force is concerned. So give us an idea of how are you planning to enhance or strengthen your combat fleet strength?
So it's a two-pronged approach. Firstly is to boost the capabilities of the existing fleets. So we have upgraded the MiG-29 aircraft which you see behind you. The Mirage 2000 has been upgraded. The Sukhoi upgrade has been approved, and that will take a few years to fructify. Apart from that, to cater for the dwindling numbers, the induction of the LCA is on the cards. We are expecting that the first LCA Mark 1A should get inducted probably next month. And then subsequently we'll form up a full squadron in a year or so.
Okay.
We have a contract for not a contract, an approval for getting at least 200 more LCAs.
Right. They're looking the Mark II configuration?
No,
Mark 1A.
Mark 1A. Mark 1As.
Okay.
After that, then the Mark II and the AMCA subsequently. So this is the one track that we'll follow for the domestic route for procuring aircraft.
Correct.
On the other hand, the quest for getting an MRFA is still on.
Okay.
Our efforts are still on to get an MRFA that will be made in India.
Okay. So that's important because we had said this earlier about 2 years ago also we had spoken about it. I think that is important for the program for Aatmanirbharta, that you do MRFA, whoever gets the contract must start building them.
Building in India.
Like on the lines of what you've done for C295.
Something like that, yes.
C295 is a thing. So that is your plan. So hopefully things will fructify there. What about the helicopter strength or transport aircraft? Are they adequate numbers? Are you looking for enhancement there?
As of now, the transport fleet is quite all right with the induction of the C295s replacing the aging Avros. However, we have issued an RFI for a medium transport aircraft, which will replace both the AN-32 and the IL-76 fleet, which will start phasing out sometime early next decade.
Okay.
So the process has begun now, and we'll identify the aircraft which are most suitable for us, and which will take on the roles of the 25 to 40 ton class of aircraft.
And what has been your experience about Chinook and Apache, apart from Mi-17s, of course, are the workhorses?
Yeah. So they have served us well, and if you recollect, both these aircraft were inducted when the crisis in eastern Ladakh began.
Right.
So they sort of, were tried and tested in the northern areas right from the day they got inducted. And I think they have served us well in both, in all the roles that we expected out of them.
Great. I need to take a break here, but don't go away. I am in conversation with Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal VR Chaudhuri. And once we come back, we will talk about the challenges in the northern front, the experience of the last 4 years during the standoff with China, and of course some of the HR issues or the recruitment and HR issues in the Air Force going forward. Don't go away. So welcome back. I'm in conversation with Air Chief Marshal VR Chaudhuri, Chief of the Indian Air Force, and we were talking about various force enablers, combat fleet strengthening. But more importantly, I wanted to ask him about the lessons learned from the last 4 years of standoff with China and how the Air Force has modified or deployed itself in high altitudes for such a long period. So, what are the lessons from there in this long standoff?
A lot of takeaways from the last 4 years. It has really taught us how to, endure not only long detachments in those high altitudes and the treacherous terrain there, but also it has stretched our systems that are deployed there to their fullest.
Right.
First of all, I need to acknowledge with gratitude the support given by the Indian Army and the ITBP in helping us deploy there, the ADAM support. Because you are aware that the Indian Air Force, in the past we had a maximum of, 2-digit figure deployment in the entire northern areas.
Right.
Okay, today that number has gone up more than 10 times. And whole lot of surface-to-air weapons, small radars, and mobile observation flights and so on are all deployed, strung across the entire, the northern borders.
Right.
So the man and machine are being stretched to the limits. Here the answer, what we found, lied in good training of both mind and body, and innovativeness.
Okay.
You'll be surprised to see the kind of innovations people have brought out in the field conditions there,
Right.
which have really enhanced our combat capabilities manifold.
I must say that you must have seen some of our videos that our team had done that at Air Force Station Leh and other places. So they were also telling me. So what are the things like? I mean, you said prolonged deployment. So the machines are normally not deployed at those heights.
Yeah, they are. A lot of equipment is not manufactured to operate above 10,000 feet, where rarity of oxygen, the temperatures cannot be controlled in terms of the machinery and things like that. So a lot of innovative measures, like I said, we have adapted from completely different or unique systems, brought in those kind of technologies to be able to ensure that these machines operate here without failing us.
Okay, and also there was, like you said, very few Air Force personnel would have had such a prolonged deployment. Now, in that, what did you have to do as far as HR practices are concerned?
So the first challenge was, of course, to get a whole lot of trained technical manpower who are also medically fit and able to sustain that. So, like I said, the focus started on training large numbers. Okay. So that replacements could be done when necessary. The second aspect was an issuing of certain policies for, making it more, somebody who faces that challenge of remaining there deployed for some time comes back with some other kind of an HR benefit in terms of a better posting.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So
exactly. Some incentive,
motivation.
Yeah.
The other important aspect that intangible is leadership.
Right.
And I must acknowledge that we have witnessed exceptional leadership from junior officers, and I'm very proud of them, the way they have led the men in those terrain and those conditions there.
Right.
So that is one intangible factor that has changed the way that we now operate and deploy there.
Great. Also, in terms of doctrines and in terms of, like you said, you have to move a lot of assets. How are you looking at the Northern Front challenge now? Because this wasn't so manifest earlier.
I would say what we look at the threat, and our like our doctrine says now, capability based on the overall threat.
Right.
So the threat will keep changing depending on various circumstances. The threat also varies with season, with the way people are deployed and so on.
Sure.
So our capabilities will now be focused on countering, every foreseeable threat. Here once again the requirement to be flexible, adaptive, to be able to rapidly redeploy where threats build up. These are some of our fortes, and I think we are doing well in this field.
Exactly. You also acknowledged right at the beginning that the coordination with the army and the help that the army and the ITBP gave you at that place. That apart, your coordination and jointness with the army would have also increased and improved?
Absolutely. So not only in administrative support, but sharing of resources. For example, the ISR resources,
Right.
or power supply units. So then there are a whole lot of things which we are now able to share with the resources with the other services. The ability to synergize our capabilities there has reached new heights now. And I am sure with the new procedures and the talks that are going on, this will only reach greater heights.
So, is this a good prelude or a good practice for eventual jointness and theaterization that the Indian military is looking at?
Yes, when it comes to setting up of theatre commands or theaterization, as we call it, the building blocks of this structure necessarily have to be, joint procedures,
Right.
communication protocols, interoperabilities, maintenance practices, logistics. So the firm foundation is being laid down. And on top of this firm foundation, now the edifice will come up as to how the final structure will shape.
So, give me an example. For instance, can there be joint maintenance of some of the equipment? Can there be logistics and storage? Or is there a huge difference in the way you operate as far as these issues are concerned? Or you can bring them together somewhere?
Right now, the first step we have done is common maintenance practices and policies for common platforms. For example, the ALH is operated by the Army, Navy, Air Force and the Coast Guard.
Right.
The Dornier is operated by the Air Force, Navy and Coast Guard. So soon we'll have the Apaches with the Army and with the Air Force.
Right.
So what we made a beginning is that common platforms, common systems will have common maintenance and complete interoperability.
Okay.
So an example is today a Coast Guard Dornier, let us say in Port Blair, can be serviced by a naval person in an Air Force base.
Okay.
Or
That's
the
a great
naval
example.
Dornier can be serviced by an Air Force personnel. So that is the level of interoperability that we have reached, and it is only scaling up now.
Okay, so that's one. Then logistics bases or logistic nodes are also being talked about. Is that possible fully, or there are also again baby steps being taken?
No, I think the steps we have taken are fairly, large steps, not baby steps. Joint logistics nodes have been set up. More nodes are coming up across the length and breadth of the country.
Right.
We started with small things, for example, small arms, ammunition, vehicles, or moving of supplies from one part of the other. So as a part of the Gati Shakti program, so we have synchronized our logistics efforts. So now there's a lot of not only commonality but in the procedures, but we heavily dependent on each other's available resources.
So storage can be common, something of that can happen. Of course, the eventual joint theatres or theatre commands that you're talking about may have to begin from joint training and joint planning.
Yes.
When are we going to route? So basically I'm asking is what is the roadmap for the theaterization?
Like I said, the building blocks are in more or less, we know what they are.
Right.
Okay, like you mentioned, joint training, maintenance, logistics, the whole lot.
Yeah.
So the building blocks are in place. Work is on for bringing in more jointness in terms of cross-posting of personnel, which has been done in large numbers today. Having common, enterprise for management of resources.
Okay.
Like, we have our own logistics management system. The Navy has its own, the Army has its own. So now work is in progress to coalesce all these things together to have one common platform.
Right.
So that if today I want to know where is, for example, a battery for some system available,
Right.
it will tell me it's available at a Navy base there or with an Army base there.
Okay.
So like I said, these are the building blocks.
Right.
And training, of course, forms a very important part of it.
Sure.
So the building blocks are in place. We meet very frequently. We put forward our thoughts and ideas across the table, and each one is considered with due diligence.
Right.
And the minute it is acceptable to all of us, then it is kept aside as something which is done.
Okay.
And then we take on the next issue.
So it's a work in progress. Okay. Let me come to your HR issues or HR policies, let me say, because you're inducting more and more women pilots and women personnel in the Air Force. How are you dovetailing that with your existing policies, and what are the challenges there, if at all?
Actually, the Agnipath scheme has given us new opportunities to revamp our entire training process.
Okay.
So from grassroots level, not only for the airmen training, even the officers training has been completely redone now.
Right.
We have eliminated, infructuous training requirements. We've cut down the training periods. And now what we follow is more emphasis on multi-skilling. In today's day and age, we really cannot afford to have an air warrior who is skilled only in one thing.
Okay.
He has the spare mental capability to be able to be trained on multiple systems.
Okay.
He may be a master of one,
Yes.
but he should know a lot about other systems.
Which is a big change from the earlier times.
Yes, earlier we were, focusing simply on one trade or on one, kind of specialty. By having multi-skilled people, I think it is going to ease out the entire working culture of the Air Force.
What about women? What has been the experience? It's been what, 4-5 years now?
For fighter pilots, yes, 4-5 years. Otherwise, we had women.
Yeah, of course, fighter pilots. Yeah.
In all other branches in the past, and we are a skill-based service.
Right.
The machine does not distinguish between a man or a woman who is operating it, and I think they're all doing exceptionally well.
Right. Right. So one final thought on this. Indian Air Force has been at the forefront of each of India's conflicts, wars, call it whatever. We are coming up to 25th year of the Kargil conflict, in which again Air Force played a major part in one of these operations. How do you foresee the Indian Air Force in the nation's capability to withstand threats and any of these conflicts that may arise?
Let me start by telling you that the Indian Air Force will always remain a decisive arm of national security. Given the resources that we have today, given our capabilities and what we are building up in the future, I think we will remain a very potent force in this entire neighborhood here. And adaptation of new technologies, quick absorption of new technologies is only going to accelerate the change. So my assurance is that we will continuously remain abreast of new technologies. We will absorb and assimilate changes to doctrines based on the changing character of war.
Right.
And we will be ever ready to protect the nation.
So great to know that. Air Chief Marshal Chaudhuri, thanks for your time and your insights.
Thank
It's
you.
been a great pleasure.
Thank you.